Good afternoon, Wealth Our Way family. What is going on? It's your guy, Charles Tank Harris. Today is Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. We cannot acknowledge that it is April 20th without acknowledging two things. It is National Puff That Stuff Day. We got to acknowledge that now that almost every state, well, I'm exaggerating, but a lot of states are legalizing recreational and medicinal use of marijuana. So for all my smokers out there, happy 420. And it's also Taco Tuesday. So when you do your thing and you get the munchies, handle your business. The other thing about April 20th, I'm a 51-year-old this year. So you know I grew up on the good music of my man, the late, great Luther Vandross, who I did have the pleasure of meeting and doing security for when I was a youngin'. And man, I got a lot of practice making them 6 kids I made off of Luther. So Luther, happy heavenly birthday, my brother. I want to thank everybody who's here live in the studio audience watching Charles Tank Harris, the founder and chief visionary officer of the financial literacy platform Wealth Our Way, as well as thanking those of you who will watch this pre-recorded later on, whether it's overnight, on your lunch break, hiding in the garage, wherever you get your 15 minutes of financial literacy in. I thank you for joining us. So what I want to talk about today, and I didn't realize when I made this topic up, it's just heavenly order, is finding a compatible financial mate. Also, the financial dating landscape that we see right now, because it's real in the field right now. And when you're dating, there's a lot of things about, especially if we're assuming traditional gender roles where men pay for dates. And I know in this day and age, some of that has gone 50-50 and women are paying for dates, and that's great. Everybody should have their own style of dating. But I want to talk about the role money plays in a relationship, how you handle money, how, as that old book, The 5 Love Languages go, what are your money languages and how does that work one another when you're deciding on who you're going to pick as a mate? So today I want to do 2 things. That's going to be our topic. But more importantly, I want to shape the dialogue into more of a conversation. So normally what we've gotten into the habit of doing on 15 Minutes of Finances is me talking. Sometimes I'll answer questions in the chat live. Sometimes I'll go back and answer questions. What I want to do today is just turn this conversation into a community Q&A. So any questions on how to handle finances as a couple, for those of you who are dating, ideas on how to use your financial knowledge to assess your partner's compatibility on the financial side, also a way to date without going bankrupt. And then also I'd like to discuss, for those of us who have kids who are of dating age, some suggestions that we may want to brainstorm to give our children ideas on how to date successfully moving forward. Because as most of you have probably heard, or for those of you who have not, I will share here, a lot of marital problems center around finances. They, as they say in medicine, you have a disease, and the disease spreads off many or sheds off many symptoms, but the symptom isn't what the problem is. It's the disease itself. Marriages have a lot of symptoms that go wrong. People not speaking to each other, not being affectionate, not wanting to spend time. And a lot of it centers around the root of a financial issue that is causing frustration, lack of security, lack of focus and direction. And as a result of having these things hanging over like a dark cloud, it casts such an ominous shadow over the relationship and eventually causes a great deal of relationship trouble. So today we're going to spend time talking about money and love. Money and relationships, how, and I'll use myself as an example, as I often do, my personal experiences. Also, I'll share with, of course, without breaching any confidences, some situations that I've encountered with money. I sit across a lot of dining room tables, or at least pre-COVID I did, talking to couples about their finances. And it's amazing to get in front of a couple and have the first conversation that they've ever had about money be in front of you, and just watching the disparity on belief systems come right to fruition. So with that being said, let's get into the conversation. First thing I'm gonna do is open it up to the cats that are in the studio audience. I see my man Ariane. I see, oh, what's up, King? What's going on with you, baby? I see you over there. Come on now, just throw it right in the box. Just throw it right in the box, Jay. Just let me see what's going on right off the door. I see my sister Tashawana over there. Of course, Renee is, holding down the Wealth Our Way family as usual. So anybody who wants to throw out a question or an experience or a concern, put it in the chat. I'll wait a couple of minutes. If nothing comes up, I will just go right into some of the experiences that I've seen firsthand. While I'm waiting for the chat, I'll talk about something that I saw on TikTok the other day. A gentleman, I want to say he's probably in his late 40s, a white male, is going through or has recently gone through a divorce. And as someone who has done that personally, the first time I was married ended in a very, very tumultuous and bitter, toxic divorce. And you can, as they say, real recognize real. When I look in this man's face, I see the pain. I see what I went through. And the reality is he's so crushed and hurt right now, but he's also, they say when you're drunk, when you're angry, and when you're hurt, the truth comes out. People say what they really feel when they're hurt and when they're angry. And then later on, they want to be forgiven for it, but you never unhear what was said. So I'm listening to this man, and he was talking about the fact that his statement, not mine, he said that women, when they are picking a mate, they wait at the finish line and select the winners. That in our society and as our genders, going back to the origin of man, that women seek protection, they seek security, I butchered that word. They seek protection and security. Women seek certainty. And what they will do, in this man, this is all this man's opinion, let's be clear. He said what they will do is they will marry a man, they will go through the process of building or living with this man, and the minute this man gets any financial trouble, loses his job, business goes down, goes into some type of mental poor state that doesn't allow him to produce at his best, the woman is out the door. So I want to hear from you guys as to whether you feel as though that's true or not. So let me look at what my man Jay is telling me right here. What are the best steps to avoid while starting the divorce process? So that's a great question. I'll address that from both a financial standpoint, from a personal mental health standpoint, from a future dealing standpoint, from being, I don't, my phone just started talking to me for some reason, from a future dealing standpoint. And also, Jay, because I know you have children, I know a little bit about you and I have children. I want to talk also about what happens with children in a divorce. So I speak to a couple brothers every morning. We have a 6 o'clock accountability call. We all have been divorced or are going through divorces. And these are all topics that come up. One of the brothers was telling me that he was talking to his daughter. They were having breakfast the other day, and his daughter was just unloading some of the stress. She's 16, some of the stress, the pain, the hurt that's been going on in her life since her parents got divorced. Now, my man said he felt horrible because he realizes this isn't his daughter hurting because she went to school and somebody called her a name or some boy broke up with her. She's experiencing pain directly at his hands. That's something that he's done. When I was getting divorced, I was a horrible version of myself. Let me tell you, a horrible version of myself. I spoke foul of my ex-wife right in front of my children. I called her all kinds of names. I threatened her. I did all types of things that if I had better command of my emotions, I would not have done, because ultimately my kids will always recall the way I treated their mom. The other part of that is financially. I've always made a good living. When I got divorced, I too was experiencing financial trouble. I went from making $500,000 a year to $200,000 a year. And I know there's a lot of people out here who don't make $200,000 a year and think, oh, wow, you're still making $200,000 a year. He was living great. All I can tell you is that when you're making $500,000 a year and your life is budgeted to $500,000 a year, taking a 60% cut in pay is very hard to navigate. And when that happened, it just seemed to time up that all of a sudden my wife didn't love me so much. So if you were to ask her, she would say one thing had nothing to do with the other. We'll let God sort it out. Yes, you can avoid high expensive lawyers. It is easier to avoid high expensive lawyers if there is agreement on both sides. If there is not agreement on both sides, which unfortunately is often the case, the best way to avoid high expensive lawyers is to, and I hate to say this term because for some people it's hard to accept, give until it hurts. I'm here to tell you that if you give until it hurts, it will be cheaper than paying somebody to tell you to give till it hurts, and then you giving almost till it hurts, adding it to the lawyer fees, and find out that you spent more money than you needed. There is a way to be fair. There is a way to be more than fair. And in most instances, the court will recognize when you are being more than fair. So that is the best way to avoid high expensive attorneys, is dragging out the process. So let me read a couple of the comments. I believe it's true because women seek security and protection. Financial uncertainty is a deal breaker for many women. Yes, Chantel, I agree with you completely. And then also from my brother Arion, what about when men marry? What about when marries in your 30s, when finance patterns are firmer, as opposed to your 20s when patterns are more flexible? What is your advice to navigating better financial partnerships for persons in that situation? I'm glad you brought that up, Ariane. So my firm belief, and this is, it may sound as my 20-year-old daughter is very pro women's rights. So we have a nice amount of talks all the time about my, as she calls them, parochial patriarchic views that are old. And she wants me to bring my thinking more to the current day. One of my thing is that I think that men shouldn't even entertain marriage until they are at least 35 years of age. That is my personal tank philosophy. You don't know yourself. You haven't had any fun. If one of the biggest things that women will hammer and harp on, even though security a lot of times shows itself financially, it also shows itself in fidelity. So if a woman is going to be uneasy because she thinks or knows that you're being out in these streets with other women, you should maybe wait a little while, have some freedom. As Eddie Murphy said in Coming to America, go sow your royal oats. Maybe don't marry until you've done everything that you could have and wanted to do. Been to Vegas a couple times, hung out with some twins, did whatever you wanted to do, get it out your system. The other thing about waiting until you're 35 is you can get more financially secure. If a man's role is going to be viewed to be a provider and a protector, you want to first be in a position to provide and protect. Trying to build alongside somebody lends itself to hurdles and problems that could be avoided if you waited till you were 35. I don't know if it's actually true of the Muslim faith, but I always go from the movie Malcolm X, where Elijah Muhammad said a man should marry a woman half his age plus 7. So if you're 35, half your age is 17 and a half, plus 7 is 24 and a half or 25. I think 35 to 25, that works for me. I'm 50. So for me now, we'll be marrying somebody 32 or 33. Half your age plus 7. I think that there's a lot of biological logic to that as well, because now you have women who are still in their birthing age. I don't want this to sound sexist as hell, but from what I know, I'm not a woman, I'm a man, but I hear it's, once you get over 35, it's more difficult to continue having babies as a woman. So from 25 to 35 is probably the age that most people would feel comfortable having a baby. Although I think my youngest child was born when my ex-wife was 38. So, go figure. But you are financially more stable. You can be a better protector and provider in the eyes of your spouse. So that's one of the things I would say. I want to make sure, because we're getting up on 15 minutes, that I answered your question, Maine. Are you good with what I was saying? And you have access to me and can rap to me offline. But I want to make sure that we're talking. I didn't even get into dating, and maybe that's what I'll do tomorrow. I'm about to start a series on estate planning. I've been getting a lot of questions on the differences between wills and trusts and durable powers of attorney. So I'm going to get into a series on that. But maybe I'll continue this conversation for a couple of more days. I want to talk about dating, intelligent ways to date without going broke. Also, There's a lot of pressure in dating now. I'm hearing my daughters tell me a guy pays for dinner. What's he expecting? So we want to make sure we're addressing those issues too. And I want you guys to know, now that I'm using the forum conversationally, be prepared to have some questions. These questions today were great. So we're at the end of 15 minutes today, but I'll come back and talk on this very same topic tomorrow. I want to thank you guys and ladies for your attendance. Please come up with some interesting questions. You can inbox me overnight, so I'll already have them in queue to answer and discuss tomorrow. I want to remind you that at Wealth Our Way, our motto is wealth is not only for the wealthy. My name is Charles Tank Harris. I'll see you back tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern Time.